Well, I bought me a cash register. I'm not sure why, but we'll figure something out to do with it. Hey everybody, it's Chris from Family Geekery, and today we're going to be taking a look at this thing, which is a cash register / point of sale machine that I found. There's a local guy that always puts stuff on Marketplace. I think he kind of closes out restaurants and bars and buys out a bunch of different stuff, and then he just lists it all. And he had this thing. He wasn't sure what to do with it. He said it was password protected and he couldn't get into it, so I got it for real cheap. Now we're going to take a little tour of what the hardware is here in a second, and I apologize for the glare on the screen. We'll get this screen cleaned up a little bit, and once we get a display on here, it should not be washed out by the lights that I've got. But before we get into taking a tour of what's here, I'll tell you first what's not here, and that is a large cash drawer that sits underneath this, and it's in my other room. I'm not going to do anything with the cash drawer. I don't need this to be a cash register. I'm not running a bar in my basement here. So we're not worried about the cash drawer, but I think we're going to be able to make something cool out of this. So let's take a look at the hardware so far. So I've got no clue what's inside this thing. I'm going to guess this is a touch screen, obviously. I'm going to hook up a mouse and keyboard if need be. But let's see what the connections are at least. Maybe rotate this thing back. And you see it's got a stand pedestal here and a hinge for the display. So let's look at the connectors underneath. These two right here are just simple 9-pin serial. Not sure what this would be. We've got a couple USBs. This one's blocked off. We got a VGA port in there. Looks like a Ethernet port, and looks like a modem, so maybe an RJ11. I'm not sure if that would be for actual communications or if it would be for an interface, maybe for a barcode scanner. You could hook that up serial, or you could hook it up with one of these RJ11s. And then this guy here is a DC output, and that cable I already removed. It's actually fished through here. I'm going to take it out in a second. But to show you what it was, it's just a proprietary DC output connector, and on the other side of it is a USB-A and then this DC power plug. So these two ran down to the cash drawer. So I imagine the cash drawer would require power to pop open. So that's what this would be for, and then probably some kind of serial interface or USB interface to control the popping open of it. So that's what this is, and that was plugged in right here, and we went ahead and took that out. So flipping it around and continuing to take a little tour of what we got here, I did have to take off this little plastic face piece here that I'll pop back on in a second just to get that DC cable fished back out of there. You can see there's a number on here for Brian. Call Brian for service. So I imagine whatever bar or restaurant this was in would have been serviced by some company that took care of all their things in case they needed upgrades or fixes. So that's his name there. And I didn't notice this before, but there is a label underneath here that gives some information. So the model number HT Elite A2, I guess a motherboard number and a BIOS version. It says it's a 15-inch LCD touch. It actually got the CPU, a J1900 2 gigahertz. That's a Celeron, I believe, or a Pentium. I forget which they call those. 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM, 2.5-inch, 128 gigabyte SSD, and it requires, through this power cord here, which is attached to this big brick here, 12 volts, 150 watts. And it shows the software's Windows 10 IoT Enterprise 2016, whatever that means. And here's actually the labels of the connectors. So 24 volts, that was the output for the cash drawer. And then we got networking, another display for whatever reason. A couple USBs. This is the one that was blocked off, so maybe it's another serial type device of some sort because it's showing a serial picture. Okay, so this jack, we didn't know what it was, a DC output 12 volts. So again, that may used to be powered some other accessory. And then looks like COM port 2 and COM port 4 on our serial ports. So let's keep looking at this, and then we'll see if we can get into it and get Windows. Alright, so I did a quick cleaning on the screen. I just used a little alcohol and this high quality cleaning cloth. Never throw away old socks. They're good for something. And based on the color of the stuff that came off, you can imagine it may have been in a bar or restaurant, because that's looks like it's indicative of like nicotine stain. So there's probably some smoke residue on here. But it cleaned up okay. There's a little sticker residue down here. I'm guessing there's probably either a sticker that had the login or the password, so it wouldn't be forgotten. But that's long gone now. So I've got it powered up. There is a couple extra ports that I didn't show you in the back here. There's a port back here that's just covered up with a plastic plate. There's one back here, the plastic plate. And then this is a port also. So I'm guessing it's just different places to put card readers. This would probably be a swipe for either the employee's badge, to badge into it, or possibly for credit card processing. So it may have had some different options for different places there. So let's push the power button on this thing and see if it blows up. So I've got nothing else plugged into it right now, just the power cord. And it's got one little lit up button down here that's lit up red, so I'm going to guess that I can push that. Hey, look, it turned blue. So let's see if this thing powers on. Yeah, that's a good sign. American Megatrend, so it's booting into Windows. So I had a quick little BIOS flash up there, and now it's booting into Windows. And having that SSD in there is making it pretty quick. So here we go, Harbor Touch, which was the name of the device. I did get, the guy had like some paperwork on it. Just some marketing paperwork for it. So Harbor Touch, HT user is the username. Looks like Windows 10. And whoever tried to log in said wrong password. So that's Windows, alright. So let's try password. Oh, couldn't that be that easy? Let's try 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. And if I try to reset password, I'm sure it's gonna ask me, yep, administrator. So we're just gonna try to blow a brand new version of Windows in here and see if we can just get into it so we can play around with it. Alright, so before I just reformat this whole thing and throw Windows on top of it, I thought maybe I'll take a look at the hardware a little bit more and see if I can find easy access to maybe the RAM or the hard drive. And like I said, we got these 3 ports back here. This one I opened up, there's some kind of connector in there that I don't recognize, so I'm not worried about that. I took the 3 screws out of this, which is the card reader, and it's just a card reader, so it does have some cables that attach inside, so I didn't mess with that. But this guy, I finally pried it off and found a little screw, which I just can't help taking screws out. And I did take these screws out also, just to see if maybe the RAM was underneath there. But these are just, as I expected, just VESA mounting screws, so you can mount this to a different type of stand. This is just a stand. There's nothing, no wires that come into here. But taking this little set screw out, lo and behold, look what we found. So here's the hard drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hard drive off of the little tray here and replace it with, I have a 500 gigabyte SSD. So I'll replace that. That way I can throw Windows on this fresh drive here, just in case there's some drivers or some kind of proprietary information I need off of this drive. I'm not just going to fully format it and blow Windows on top. So let me move this drive over, get this one installed, and we'll start throwing Windows on there. Alright, so I got the new drive installed in there. I hooked up a little RF receiver for a wireless mouse and keyboard so we can try to get some input in there. And I plugged a Windows boot drive in there. So I'm going to start guessing on what buttons to hit. It said press delete to get set up. So we're in the BIOS. Let's see what information the BIOS says. The BIOS dates 2017, so this thing isn't ancient at all. And like I said, the 8 gigs of RAM, I was happy to see that. I didn't find a place to replace it. I'm sure if I took the screen completely out, I could find the motherboard. But for Windows 10 on this type of device, 8 gigabytes is going to be fine. So let's see if I can change the boot order. And we've got our boot options here. And I can see the SanDisk Cruiser, which is my USB drive, so that's good. Let me go over to this menu and see, yeah, there's a boot override. So let me see if I can just do a boot override straight to the USB. Went straight into some kind of a shell. So that's not what we want. So it looks like I had a couple seconds to skip this. So let's try rebooting again and nope, not that easy. Let's try rebooting with the switch and see if we can get into the Windows startup. Alright, so going back into the BIOS, I just went into the regular boot order and changed. Alright, let me just break in here as I'm installing Windows, and it's going smooth so far. But I just wanted to show you that even without putting any drivers in yet, it's recognizing the touch controls, which is really nice. So let me continue setting this up. Hey, look, it's got Wi-Fi. Alright, we've got Windows, and we can see already that the resolution is a little low. So let's first look at the specs here, just to double check that it was what it said it was. So Intel CPU J1900, so that is a Celeron, and that's a fanless processor, so that's why it's really tiny, like a laptop processor. So they use those a lot in industrial machines because it doesn't need a fan. So 4 cores, 4 threads. There's 8 gigs of memory, and it says it's using 1 of 2 slots. So maybe we can eventually find it and find another DIMM slot for that. Here's our SSD, and that's the USB drive. So let's see how we do as far as drivers. So I'm going to go into Device Manager and look for exclamation points. And there is a couple in there. So looks like there is actually a sound card. There was a couple speakers in the back here. I'm sure they're not super high quality. And a couple other, looks like bus controllers and stuff that didn't come over. So I'm going to throw some internet on this. I'm going to do a little bit of driver sleuthing, and I'll be back when I get everything loaded up. Alright, so I got the internet hooked up, and first thing I do is go into Windows Update. I'm going to let that just download everything it can. Sometimes it goes ahead and it clears up some of these exclamation points in Device Manager. So I'm going to let this download a bunch of stuff, and it's already popped up a couple times and said found, this device, found this device. It did pop up and it said it found some kind of a mag stripe reader. I'm guessing that's that. So let me let this install and we'll come back when it's done. Alright, so we got most of the drivers set up. There's still a couple things that were missing from the device manager, but I'm not too worried about them. Everything is up and running. I'll do a deeper search for those drivers, but like I said, they're not affecting anything. So here it is. Windows is all updated. All the drivers are on. And I've got the display resolution. Looks like the max is set to 1024 by 768. So that must be the default or the native resolution of the screen itself, since it's only a 15-inch monitor. So that's not bad for what we're going to be doing this for. So the next step is figuring out what are we going to do with this thing. So I've got a couple ideas. I'm going to go through them right now. Option number 1, a touchscreen jukebox. Now here I've got some software called Nordbeats Jukebox 3.2, and this is just one of the many different touchscreen jukebox softwares out there. And there's a lot prettier ones, and there's expensive ones and cheap ones. But I just downloaded this, ripped a couple CDs in here just to see how it works. So you can just pick your favorite album, grab a song, and it will start playing. It'll add it to the playlist. Then we can go and add a couple more songs to the playlist if we want. I'm going to have the volume turned down so I don't get a copyright strike. But just load up your playlist, let it play, and skip through, and all kinds of stuff. There's even a little visualizer that you can set up on here. But that's option number 1. Load this thing up with a bunch of music, and obviously put some better speakers on it than the ones that are built in, because these obviously don't sound very good. But let's see what else we can do. Option 2. How about some touchscreen games? Nothing better than some old-fashioned chuzzle. I can remember we used to have fun with this game for hours. I think we got it on the iPad way back when. But this is on Steam. And Steam has lots of games that you can play touchscreen. There's actually a configured list that you can search for that has all the touchscreen capable games. And granted, this isn't very stellar specs at all. The graphics aren't going to be super powerful for playing modern games, but for something like this, I mean, this is very responsive. You would imagine finding something like this sitting at a bar that you could play with. So I've got this game, and then some other classics like Zuma and Peggle. So all kinds of fun. Option number 3, old school console games. So since this has a 3:4 aspect ratio like old TVs did, this is the perfect type of computer to run these old school games, and plenty powerful to do so. So just hook up a couple controllers, USB controllers, load up your favorite games. Don't tell me I'm actually going to win this one. Bada bing. Have yourself some fun with some old school games. Option number 4. Put this on the counter of your kitchen and use it to look up recipes. So since you got a touch screen, I hope you don't get a bunch of flour and grease and stuff on the screen, but you got a touch screen. It's about the perfect size, doesn't take up too much room, and you can search all your recipes, throw on some music even with the jukebox while you're cooking, and you'll be good to go. Option number 5. How about a digital picture frame? Throw up a slideshow of your favorite photos and have it just kind of flow through there. So as you can see, there's a bunch of different things you can do with this thing once you get it all set up, and honestly I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but probably a combination of some of those. Since it does have the Visa mounting pattern in the back with those 4 screws, it would be pretty easy to mount up onto a wall if you wanted to. And it's pretty low profile. It's not putting out a super amount of heat, so I think it would look fine on a wall. But for now, I'll probably find a little shelf for it in the office and keep a gamepad next to it and load up some games every now and then when I want to play, maybe play some music through it. I'm probably going to order up a USB sound card, since I didn't see an 1/8 inch jack in the back for a pair of speakers. So I'll just order up a USB sound card, and that'll let me output to some better speakers. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed playing around with this cash register with me, or this point of sale. It turned out to be a pretty nice little unit, and I'm going to get lots of fun out of it. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give that a thumbs up, give me a like. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. That helps us out a lot, lets us know that you're enjoying what we're making for you. Don't forget about the Family Geekery Podcast, new episodes every Tuesday. We cover all kinds of geeky stuff. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, peace out and geek out. Oh, that's what the peace signs are for.